Hey playa, have you ever been in a situation where the person you like or your girlfriend or boyfriend was going out of their way to try to make you feel jealous? That's the type of situation I was dealing with when my second girlfriend went off to college. So in this video, I want to share why she wanted me to be jealous and why I realized being jealous might have been a good thing.
This is the just me. Watching the just me.
First things first, if you didn't see my video from last week, I told the story of how me and my second girlfriend got together after I decided to pick her over another girl that I was battling between deciding who I liked more. And when we officially started going out, eventually it was time for her to go to college, which was hours and hours away from me, making it a long distance relationship. One of her biggest concerns with being so far away was that she wasn't going to have easy access to hang out with her friends, to see her family, or to be with me. And while this did suck, I had hoped that the relationship could work because we started the relationship before it became long distance, making it way easier to manage. I've talked in the past about long distance relationships, and I personally believe they have a better chance of working when both people are able to establish a physical connection with each other before they separate. But because she was a fun, energetic, and personable girl, it was really easy for her to make friends with the new people in her building. And I thought, man, that's awesome. The sooner she can make friends, the easier it'll be for her to integrate into her school environment and not feel like she's missing home so much. While we were long distance, our primary communication methods were over the phone talking to each other and talking on Skype. So every day we would message each other and talk on the phone in between classes whenever we could. What I started to notice is that she developed a core group of friends, one of them being a very eccentric guy. He was also very hands-on from what she told me. He would throw things at the girls, he would sit on them, and just do silly things like that. At first, I didn't think anything of it. She assured me that he was just a friend and that he joked around with all the girls like that. Naturally, I'm not a jealous person. I believe that if a person doesn't want to be in a relationship with you, then it's probably better for you guys to end it than holding on to that person just because you like them. And looking back, I wasn't sure if she was telling me these things about this guy to try to get me to feel jealous or just to make me feel more comfortable knowing that he was just a friend. Meanwhile, balancing this long distance relationship was getting tough. When I went back to school, I started hanging out with more of my friends, and as she started getting more integrated, she was spending more time with them. That simply meant that we would talk less throughout the day because we'd go get lunch and dinner with our friends, and then we'd have to take care of homework and all those things, which meant that we only really had at the end of the night to sit and talk to each other. And what tends to happen in long distance relationships is that as you start to branch out and have your own personal experiences, it's hard to tell the other person and have them feel like they're really connected to the stories you're sharing. For example, me and my friends would just encounter mishaps that we thought were the funniest things in the world, but whenever I would tell her, she didn't really seem too interested. And she had her own inside jokes with her group of friends, and when she would tell me about them, I just had to pretend I thought they were the most funniest things in the world. It became even more interesting when the guy that was part of her friend group started inviting his friends from other schools to come hang out with them. So when the weekends would roll along, things would get really tricky. She wanted me to dedicate Friday nights to not hang out with my friends regardless of what the plans are so that I could sit and talk to her. She felt that if we didn't dedicate one solid weekend night to each other, then we would never really make time to truly talk to each other for a good amount of time. And I thought this was okay, but I didn't like the idea of being locked down and always having to tell my friends, sorry, Fridays are completely off limits for me every single time. I told her we should have a level of flexibility because sometimes things fell on Fridays and sometimes they fell on Saturdays. Well, in her mind, it was set solid. So whenever something came up on a Friday and I tried to talk to her about me going, she would get incredibly angry with me about it. And it sucked. Sometimes my friends would just want to get together to hang out, but I couldn't simply because I had made this promise. Well, all that changed when her friends' friends came from the other school to come hang out with them and party for the whole weekend. Me and her had slightly different ideas of what having fun was. For her, it was getting drunk with her friends and just going crazy, and for me, it was not drinking at all and just hanging out with people that I cared about. So one weekend, all these guys come down from another school and they're hanging out with my girlfriend and all her girlfriends. Nothing will go wrong, right? Well, of course, when you have a bunch of drunk guys and girls there, it's a college setting and everyone's just letting loose and have fun, of course people are gonna flirt and it's gonna lead to something. I told her from the get-go, look, I'm not a jealous person, but if you do end up cheating on me, just like if I end up cheating on you, I expect us to just end the relationship and that's that. When I talked to her on the phone that night, she was drinking and having fun, and she told me that this guy was flirting with her and everything, but she didn't plan on doing anything with him. I reassured her that she was an adult and she can make her own decisions there, that it didn't bother me because if she chose to cheat on me, then I would just break up with her, and that was that. But her being in a drunk state and hearing that really pissed her off. She got angry at me and said, "I don't understand why you're not jealous." I gotta say, I was a bit confused in that situation. Here I was sitting 8 hours away from her, and I had no power in that situation other than to tell her, don't cheat. And as we kept arguing about why I wasn't jealous, she eventually got angry and just hung up the phone. I knew that one of three things was gonna happen that night. She was either gonna respect our relationship and not cheat, she was gonna cheat and then tell me about it and start crying, or she was gonna cheat and not tell me at all. I mean, really, what could I do? At the end of the day, I had no choice but to take her word on it. The very next day, she ended up calling me in the morning and telling me that nothing happened, and I do have to say that did bring a level of reassurance for me. I didn't want her to cheat, but on the same accord, I wasn't going to allow myself to feel hurt and jealous based on a decision she made. So we got into that conversation on a deeper level, and I finally began to understand why she wanted me to be jealous. From her perspective, if I showed that I was just even a little bit jealous, it would make her feel like I was taking control of our relationship and I wasn't just letting her do whatever she wanted to do. She told me that if I told her that her hanging out with those guys made me feel uncomfortable or that I didn't want her to do it at all, it would make her feel reassured that I actually cared about the relationship. And I thought that all this time, by giving her a level of flexibility and free will to do as she wanted within the reins of being respectful of our relationship, that was the right step to take. But for her specifically, she wanted a little bit of my aggressiveness to come out and for me to take territorial reins, claiming that she's my girl. It took me time to really understand this. When she first told me that, I thought, this is stupid. I'm giving you the ability, you're an adult, make your own choice. But after thinking back on it, I realized she was kind of right. Being jealous exists on its own spectrum, and if you're too far jealous, you can be controlling, demanding, and toxic to your relationship. But on the other side, not even showing just a hint of jealousy can make that person feel worthless or that you don't even care about them. It was a very hard line to navigate, but being in a long-distance relationship made that even tougher for us. And I realized that all along, I thought my perspective was the same one that she carried. So whenever I would tell her that I was hanging out with my guy friends and there were a bunch of girls there and everyone was flirting and joking around, I thought that she thought it was okay because she knew I wasn't gonna cheat. But I knew sharing all those vivid details with her and then ending it off with, but you know I'm not gonna cheat because that's not who I am, didn't make her feel any less insecure or jealous. So the question for us came down to, where do we draw the line? Should she be hanging out with guys that I never personally met, and should I be hanging out with girls that she never personally met? There was no easy answer, and I'm sure we could have worked it out, but all that tended to change when she finally did cheat on me. Remember when I said those guys came down from another school, everyone got drunk and hung out? Well, there's more to that story, which I'm going to share in another video. What do you guys think though? What should the line be when it comes to being jealous in a relationship? Is jealous even the right word we should be using here? Leave your comments below and we'll talk about it. If you haven't already seen the first part of this story, where I had to choose between two girls that I really liked, make sure to go check out that video. Otherwise, subscribe if you're new to the channel and check out the playlist of my other life stories, including the story of my first girlfriend. Long distance relationships are tough, man, believe me, but I think it's possible to make it work between you and your partner as long as you're open and willing to communicate with each other. Stay tuned for the third part of this story coming next Friday. As always, guys, love and peace.